Hello, friends. You are listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud, conversations about trauma and healing from two women who are doing the work. This is your friendly neighborhood producer bringing you an exciting update. Beginning September 19th, 2022, Candace and Cher will be hosting their first online story group through Zoom. They would like to invite you to join them for 9 weeks of healing connection, where deep kindness and care will be provided to help meet you in the struggles that you are facing today. You can register by contacting them on their website at processingtraumaoutloud.com or email them at candaceshare@gmail.com. That's KANDACESHER@gmail.com. Cost is $495, and there will be a maximum of 7 participants. So sign up soon to make sure your spot is secured. If you are not familiar with story groups, continue listening because in today's episode, Candace and Cher explain how story groups have impacted their healing journey in transformational ways. Being in a small community that understands the impact of trauma is a powerful resource that offers beauty and goodness on this healing journey.
Hey, Cher.
Hey, Candace. Good to see you today.
It's good to see you today, too. Today, we're going to be talking about Story Group and what it looks like doing the work of healing from childhood trauma in the context of community. You and I have both shared that we have our individual coaches that we work with one-on-one. And now we want to talk a little bit about how our journey of healing gave us more resources to show up in a group and experience more healing in that way.
Yeah, we've used the words before, but being in story group has been transformational for both of our lives. And to go from that place where, we live for so long with the shame of our trauma, the stories that we carry that we maybe have never told anybody before. And even that we've done everything that we can to forget about them. Mm-hmm. And yet it seems like there are those few stories that just kind of seem like they're always there and they trouble us, but we don't really know what to do with them. Story group for both of us has been a place where we've been able to bring some of our difficult stories and really find some amazing healing there.
Yeah, story work is hard. Doing this work is hard. And we've named that. We actually have this conversation at times, but we've also said there's a reason why we choose to do the hard. A lot of times we are getting into this space in our life where things aren't working right. We don't understand. I know for me, it kind of feels like, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I want to figure this out.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, in the general population, we might say, hey, if life is working for you, yeah, you don't have to go toward this thing that's hard and where you face your deepest shame. But probably for our listeners, if they're here, mm-hmm. they're serious about some of these areas of bondage in their lives and these places where they have continued to struggle either internally or in their relationships in ways that they're, maybe coming to this place where they're saying something has to change. Like, I don't want to go through any more years of my life with mm-hmm. this burden that I'm carrying. Mm-hmm. And this is, I think, where story group can be a good fit because it is a very, very unique method of walking into some of those really hard stories.
I know our story group that we've been meeting with for a few years now, when we first started that journey, we talked about what that was like for us to show up in a group where we were going to be bringing our stories.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about what your first experience was in that? And what do you think you were looking for?
What was I looking for? I think I was looking for other people who also had childhood trauma because I have been working on my story for many, many years in therapy and a lot on my own. But never really had someone that I was really kind of walking this path together with. And so I think one of the things that really appealed to me was meeting with other people who are kind of in the same place that I am, that they too have complex PTSD and developmental trauma and a lot of shame in their stories. So to be able to come together with other people, that was really huge for me. But I will say, like, I almost missed the boat because I signed up at the last minute. I really agonized. It was hard for me to make this decision. And I think it's because the shame for me was so big that I had spent a lot of time and energy on hiding these stories. So to think about actually joining a group where this happens and choosing to bring these stories into the light, there was some agony there for me. And then I just, to kind of more answer your question, right from the beginning, I mean, just amazing when the facilitators began by sharing one of their stories and really modeling for us how to engage this kind of a story. And it was an experience like I had never really encountered, where the kindness, the tenderness, the compassion, that as adult women, we were showing these very, very wounded places. I mean, from the first session on, I was hooked. I mean, I think I want to be in a story group the rest of my life.
Yes, I understand. And I'm so glad you took that step.
Yeah.
Because that's how I got to know you.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I experienced, I have been in other small groups, many over the years.
Yeah.
And there was a sense of goodness in many of those groups, but there was also this, I don't want to say shallowness, because I don't want to minimize that there was goodness, but it really didn't go to the depths that I needed to go, and probably even others needed to go, because we just didn't really know that there was something more.
Yeah.
You're smiling like you want to say something.
Yeah. It's like in most groups, you show up with your best prefrontal cortex foot forward.
There you go.
In story group, you kind of show up with your messy limbic brain foot, kicking and screaming, but you come. Yeah.
Well, it's a highlight of my week because we meet with our story group twice a week. And we have that moment that all 5 of us start popping on the screen, and we never really know what we're coming with.
Yeah.
And one of us may even be already in tears because we're just so happy to be together and we have stuff that we need to unburden. We all go through different things, but I think the thing that I have grown to love so much about story group is there is just no sense of comparison or competition or these expectations that could cause you to feel like you just can't do it. There is a sense of being committed to repair ruptures that would occur and will occur in a small group.
Yeah.
We're human and we bring a lot of messy. And so, wow, just the longer I stayed in it, and I would say it took almost a good year for me to really feel rooted and grounded. I mean, trust was building over time. And I think that's probably a good word to talk about when you're entering into a group, is the idea of trust.
And I think too that, one of the unique things about our story group is that we have now become our community.
Mm-hmm.
These groups typically last about 8 weeks. We just kept coming back for more once we did start building trust. And I think trust kind of did start developing pretty quickly for us. It doesn't always, but I think that one of the unique things about story group is that we bring our shame. When we tell our stories, there is a lot of shame attached there. The feelings of what I maybe did that was bad or wrong, but much more than that something is wrong with me. And so as we have brought that and heard other people speak to that. We allowed and invited eyes to see us right there. And that as we have done that, it's like the trust just grows as we see the way that our stories and our shame is handled with such care and such respect and such honor and such compassion. We bring the ugly, we bring the messy. And when it's met with love and compassion and acceptance, like the trust really grows.
When we show up, so we have our past stories, but we have our past stories that affect the way we can show up today. And so there's times that we do get triggered in relationships or whatever, and we bring that to one another.
Yeah.
Instead of hiding and getting, we may feel shame, but we're not drowning in shame. Those eyes and the words of compassion and the passion to call each other up into flourishing week after week I can see how we would be in this until we can't be in it anymore.
Yeah, for sure. It's powerfully unique in that way. Really, I think that I've never been a part of a group where if somebody was hurt or disappointed or whatever, angry, I've never been in a group where that was brought to the table and talked about and met with curiosity and given affirmation and allowed to process. It's powerful to see that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a pursuit that we have for one another, that we want to make sure that no one is getting lost, because we can all still struggle in different ways that can make it even hard to show up today. But the longer we've been doing it, we just know that it is our safe place. It's not our perfect place, but it's really probably the most perfect place as far as a small group community that we have at this point. You mentioned when we sign up for a formal story group, they're usually anywhere from 8, 9, 10 weeks. And people don't have to keep meeting after that. We didn't have to keep meeting. We just chose to keep meeting. And that's how our group developed. But even if people don't choose to keep meeting, even that space of meeting with people and experiencing story group in this way is still transformational.
Yeah, I look back to our first session, which I think was 9 weeks, if I remember correctly. And I brought a story that I had not shared before. And it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life to be seen and soothed and safe and secure in the midst of a place of a lot of shame for me. Yes, whether these groups go on forever like ours or not, in every experience, I think, even just one time can be powerful and life-changing.
One of the reasons why we wanted to talk about Story Group today is because we are going to launch a Story Group this fall, and we can share the details later on our Facebook page at Processing Trauma Out Loud. But we wanted to give our listeners just a glimpse of what Story Group has meant for us and means for us. And we wanted to open up some space to let other people experience that. There are other people that facilitate and do story groups, which is wonderful. I'm kind of on the, where I'm at in that space is like, we need so many of these kind of helpers and healers.
Yes.
And there isn't enough, honestly.
Yeah.
And so as we heal, we may end up in one sense kind of being called to go out and help other people in these areas. And you and I have both felt that call to take what we've been learning, what we've been processing, how we've been growing, and really to also send the message that this is a journey and we have not arrived, but we do have tools and resources that we put into practice daily. And that story group is one of those resources that we feel could be helpful to anyone who's ready to step into a space where there are eyes that will be looking for them with kindness and compassion and understanding and a desire to help see those areas of pain be transformed into really just beauty and joy and creativity and all of the things that really trauma wanted to steal from us.
Yeah, that's so good. And I remember earlier we were talking about how when you have childhood trauma, you can have a happy childhood and trauma in the same four walls. And when I was buried by the shame, I could not really wrap my arms around the happy memories. But now I feel like I could talk a lot. I could talk a long time about the happy memories. I did have a lot of happy memories, even though there was also a lot of trauma. That's another result of being in story group for me.
Yeah. I have a friend one time, I can't remember if we were talking or she messaged me, but I just cracked up so loud. And she was a childhood friend that we grew up together. And she goes, we had the most happiest dysfunctional childhood ever.
Yeah.
And I soaked in the goodness of that.
Yeah.
And so it's not about life is all doom and gloom because we've had complex childhood trauma, though we hate it. Like we hate that we've had that. And at the same time, it doesn't define us. And we've come up and coming through the messages that we believed because of it.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get into this space where we know other people that are longing for this freedom.
Yeah.
And we long for more freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For ourselves and for others.
Yeah.
Like our calling is to bring healing, to the world, to help rescue the captives and heal the wounds of the brokenhearted. And so Story Group is a great way to do that. We hope that that's happening even through our podcast. And we know that it is because we've gotten some great feedback from people. But Story Group is just another avenue that we are going to make available for a few people. Should we talk just a little bit about the dynamic of Story Group, of what it kind of looks like? Do you want to just talk a little bit about some of those specific dynamics?
Yeah, I can do that. Story Group, first of all, we will have information for people to read about it and kind of know the dynamics, of meeting each week for 9 weeks. And then we will send out what we call Story Group intentions. Like, what are the intentions that we show up and meet with? And we will talk through those. Just let everybody get a good understanding of what they are signing up for. And then, I know for us, our first Story Group, we won't be doing story work. We're just going to get together with whoever signs up and answer questions and go over the group intentions. But then we'll talk about what it's like to write your first story and the dynamics of that and what we're looking for. Like when I said yes to Story Group, I really did have a piece that I was ready, even though I did feel a little scared because it was something new. I had never entered into a small group with the intentionality that we do with Story Group.
Yeah.
So what about you? Can you think of anything else?
I think our sessions will be about 90 minutes. Both Candace and I will be facilitating, 2 facilitators, and basically every session, 2 people individually. So we'll split the time in half. One person will read their story, and then we as a group, first Candace and I will engage and offer some care and feedback. And then the rest of the group has the opportunity to really learn how to engage other people as they share their stories too. And so that's what each session is then, is 2 people sharing their story. And once everybody has read their story and shared it, which takes about 4 or 5 weeks, then we go back around and we re-engage that same story. Now that they have had a chance to process that a little for a few weeks, then we come and we re-enter and just go a little bit deeper with that same story. And so that's kind of the basics of what happens through the course of the 9 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm excited about stepping into doing our first story group together.
Yeah, me too.
And we know that there'll be goodness. There'll be just a time of soaking in. Really, I want to call it just the honor that we feel when other people allow us to be with them in their stories of harm. We know that it takes courage to bring your pain into a group.
Yeah.
And we don't take it lightly. Like it's a very serious thing. And we also have some fun with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And next week, we will actually be inviting our story group members. We call our group the Pearls. Hopefully, all 5 of us will be able to be here. And together, we'll just talk a little bit about what our story group, our story work, and now what I will say is our community has meant to us. And we are so excited to be able to bring that to our Processing Trauma Out Loud listeners and give them a chance to meet these women who have been so influential and have become just so dear to us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Well, it was good to be with you today, just talking about Story Group and what it's meant for us and our hope for the future of being able to offer good care through story groups.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll just say to our listeners as we close, it is hard work and it's not for everyone. It's not. But if you are desiring more freedom and what you're doing right now isn't working and you know that you want something that's going to help you break free, it might be Story Group. It might be doing this kind of work. So come on over to our Processing Trauma Out Loud Facebook page and check out the information there on our upcoming story group that will be starting about mid-September. We'll look forward to talking more about this with you in the coming weeks.
Good to be with you.
You too, Candace. Always. Love you so much.
Love you too.
Thank you for listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud. Make sure to check out the show notes for links to suggested resources and social media. Like, subscribe, and follow to keep up with our weekly content. And if you don't mind, take a moment to rate and review us. Your feedback is extremely valuable and contributes to the success of this podcast. Music was created by Caleb Paxton, and our sound engineer is Jeremiah Jones of Audistory LLC. We welcome you to join us for more conversations soon. Take care.